Hi, my name is Terry Bishop. I work for the Shelby County Sheriff's Office here in Memphis, Tennessee. Years ago, I had a friend that got a little mixed up in some drugs and such when we were in high school, and it just always bothered me a little bit, and thought about it several, years during that point of time, and become available to me or come to my attention when I was going to work one day. There was a billboard that was advertising for reserve deputies, and I thought to myself, that might be something I might be interested in. I wasn't sure that I was really interested in police work. I was kind of in the medical field at the time, and coming up through Methodist Hospital, and was assisting autopsies and stuff like that, and was actually thinking about being a pathologist. So I wasn't sure that's what I wanted to do full time, but I thought, well, here's it's something I can do on a part-time basis, and and still get some enjoyment and something out of it. And so I joined up or signed up for the reserves, and started the academy. Made it through the selection process and started the academy, and just a few weeks into the academy for the reserve program, I decided that that's what I want to do full time. It just appealed to me, and being a public servant and helping people out and trying to make a difference in my community really appealed to me. So I decided that's what I wanted to do full time and work from there. It took me about a year after I got on as a reserve officer. It took me about a year to get hired full time. Well, during my career, there was a bunch. I got hired on, and I was about 22 years old, and I went into the fugitive division. I was there for a short period of time, and because I looked so young, I got kind of drafted to go into the narcotics division, and I worked undercover for several years, and then went straight from working undercover into working doing search warrants, narcotics. And so there's a lot of incidences that I can recall. The most memorable would be one that we were involved in. It was going to be a reverse drug sting, and we were being robbed. It was kind of a setup and we got robbed, and a shootout occurred where we ended up having to take the life of another individual, and a lot of bullets flying around, broad daylight, in a busy area of town. So it was kind of a tense moment, and that's probably one of the most memorable situations that sticks out in my mind most of the time. It wasn't the first time that I'd been in a shooting situation, but the first time that I had been that close to it, that involved in it. Yes. My family is pretty proud of the fact of that I've become a police officer and the things that I do. They worried about it over the years, because like I said, I spent the majority of my career. I've been there 22 years now, 23 if you count the year that I was a reserve officer, and there's been a lot of long nights and things going on that they were aware of. So they worried about it a lot, but pretty proud of the fact that that I decided to do that for a living. Well, I think initially, I think right out of the get-go, they were proud of the fact. I think just because of being a public servant, I think that they were proud of that decision right away. I don't think that they didn't have any idea of what all the stuff I would be involved in later on, or they may have rethought the whole idea, but they didn't have any problems with it. Probably the best part of my career. I've always been, an animal lover, and particularly dogs. So I got to do two of the things that I love. Got to do working with dogs and being a police officer on top of it. So I got to, I had the kind of the best of both worlds. Working with a dog every single day, and I love the training aspect. My whole life I've trained dogs. Even as a young kid, training them to do tricks and whatever, and I always had dogs. So training a dog to actually help me as a tool in my job and to help fight crime was just a plus, and I loved the training part of the whole deal. Was probably my favorite part, was actually doing the training of the dogs. Yes, when you got selected to go to the canine unit, and of course you had to go through a trial basis where you had to go and learn all the ins and outs of the dogs, and you had to learn some medical stuff about the dogs, because dogs will overheat and heat stroke fairly easily, just in a raise of a few degrees of their body temperature, and they can heat stroke. So you had to learn a lot of stuff about that and the dog's behaviors and things like that, and you actually had to pass that part of it, before you can continue on and get a dog and then go on and train the dog and get certified. We had to maintain certification and pass qualification tests yearly with the dog. The two, well, we now have three things that we use a dog for. We use them. I think our biggest role with the canines is narcotic detection, and then we also use dogs for apprehension work, where we have to send a dog in to search for a person in a building, or somebody running, hiding in the woods, or what have you. They can seek out people also. And for years we didn't use dogs for bombs, but in the past few years we've added a couple of bomb detection dogs to the unit also. Well, like I said, what got me involved in it was a billboard for a sheriff's deputy reserve officer, and so where I went was because of that right there. Just because I had called the number on the billboard, and it was for the sheriff's department, and that's how I ended up at the sheriff's department instead of somewhere else, I guess. I love what I do, and there has been times when I kind of questioned it, or kind of times when I said maybe I should have gone another direction, and most of those times it doesn't last long, but it usually involves just the process itself, criminals being released, lawsuits being filed against you, there being the nature of the business, you're going to get sued, and it just happens that way, and it's always been frivolous, but it happens. And you get frustrated with that a lot of times, and when you're putting people in jail and they're getting out faster than you can complete the paperwork, it kind of bothers you sometimes, but that's part of the process, and if you do your job right, then they end up right back where they belong, and everything goes well, and it has for me for my career. So just out of frustration sometimes I kind of wish I had gone a different path, and I've lost a couple of good friends that were killed in the line of duty, and those times make you kind of wish you'd have gone another direction sometimes, but I wouldn't change anything. Besides jurisdiction, really not a whole lot. We do the same job, whereas like I said, jurisdictional boundaries, we have none. We have jurisdiction in the whole county. Fortunately, we have smaller municipalities within our county that handle their own policing, but we can go into any area of Shelby County, including the municipalities. One of the main things that the sheriff's department makes them different from anybody else is we're mandated by state laws for certain things like security and staffing of courts, serving arrest warrants, and stuff like that a lot of the other municipalities are not mandated to do. I think the main thing that changed for me is, I grew up a country boy, and where, you knew everybody and you trusted everybody unless they gave you a reason not to trust them. And I guess over the years it's kind of hardened me in that sense, in that I really don't trust anybody anymore until they give me a reason to trust them. You're always kind of suspicious of everybody. You're always looking for. You just don't open yourself up to people, or I don't just open myself up to people like I did before then. I kind of got to get to know you first before before I open up to you very much. And I guess that's the main thing that may have changed in my life because of my law enforcement.
All right.